Today on The Report, we discuss a Russian airstrike breaking ceasefire with Ukraine.
President Trump calls on the Supreme Court to ban transgender military service members.
Visa revocations hit 8 international students at Cal State Fullerton without warning.
And the presence of a Department of Homeland Security agent on campus. The report starts now.
Welcome back to another episode of The Report. I'm Ariana Hartman.
I'm Allison Goyich.
I'm Juliana White.
And I'm Alejandra Chavez. Don't forget to follow our Titan TV Instagram at Titan TV CSUF to keep in touch with us and view our latest content.
On Thursday night, the Russian Air Force launched a series of deadly missile attacks at the Ukrainian capital of Kyiv, killing at least 12 people and injuring almost 100. Despite a shaky ceasefire brokered by the Trump administration back in March, both sides have continued launching attacks against one another, targeting primarily military bases and drone factories. The recent attacks on Kyiv followed just hours after President Trump posted a message on his Truth Social platform describing a peace deal between Ukraine and Russia as very close. Further commenting on the recent attacks, the president stated, quote, "I'm not happy with the Russian strikes on Kyiv. Not necessary and very bad timing. Vladimir, stop. 5,000 soldiers a week are dying. Let's get the peace deal done," end quote. At a press conference in South Africa, the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky also spoke following the attacks, where he took to the podium to criticize American involvement, stating, quote, "I do not see pressure on Russia now and new sanction packages against the aggression of Russian Federation," end quote. Meanwhile, peace in Ukraine remains uncertain as both sides continue to launch attacks against one another despite promises of peace and diplomacy. Okay, guys, this war has unfortunately been going on against Ukraine and Russia for a very, very long time, and we're seeing it again now a lot in the news media. And I think, from my memory at least, this is the first time I've ever really seen Trump express a lot of outward disappointment and rage against Russia going on with this war situation. So that definitely took me by surprise. I'm a little disappointed it was on his Truth Social platform. I think his posts do get posted on his Instagram and other social media platforms as well. But just seeing him speak out like that definitely surprised me.
Yeah, it has definitely been a long war since I remember being in high school when all of this started. However, like you said, it's good to see that Trump is finally taking a position supporting more Ukraine, saying that he's disappointed on Russia since I think last week in a press conference he said that I quote, that it has been harder to deal with Zelensky and that he already has an agreement with Russia. So I really don't understand where all this is coming from, since Zelensky has always been talking that he wants peace, he wants to make an agreement, and he wants to work on a solution.
Yeah, I definitely think it's interesting that now Trump has kind of switched a bit and has, I guess, sort of turned on Russia, not, if you could say that. But also a part of the deal that he wants to make, that he's speaking about, is recognizing Crimea as a part of Russia, which that would go against the World War II consensus that international borders should not be changed by force, which is what's happening. So it's interesting to see how this deal will play out in the future.
100%. And I think another really interesting thing about all of this is that President Zelensky and President Trump and J.D. Vance all kind of had a little bit of a blowout the last time we saw them in a press conference. So the fact that President Trump is condemning Putin's actions right now is really, really interesting in telling about this war and the events at hand. On Thursday, April 24th, President Trump approached the Supreme Court requesting legal authorization to prepare for the removal of transgender individuals from the United States military, an approval which would allow the administration to expedite a process that would regularly have taken the Pentagon several months to a year, according to Solicitor General D. John Sauer, who elaborated, quote, "a period far too long for the military to be forced to maintain a policy that it has determined in its professional judgment to be contrary to military readiness and the nation's interests," end quote. This effort to remove transgender service members from the military has been a long-standing goal of the Trump administration since their previous rollback of this Obama-era policy as far back as 2017. Despite making up less than 1% of the U.S. military, on January 27th, the White House website posted their new outlines for the future in prioritizing military excellence and readiness within Section 1, adoption of a gender identity inconsistent with an individual's sex conflicts with a soldier's commitment to an honorable, truthful, and disciplined lifestyle, even in one's personal life. Wow. Section 1 of that definitely brought a lot of controversy because the Trump administration believes that gender identity is not a thing. You cannot choose your gender identity. You are solely what your biological sex is. However, a lot of people believe that sometimes your gender identity and your biological sex don't align. So how are we feeling about this implementation to removing transgender military service members?
Look, it's been a really, really pressing issue within Trump's campaign. He was saying that he was going to do this. He did it. So it's unfortunately not a surprise, but it is very, very unfortunate because I think personally, if you want to serve in our armies and military and you want to help our country, by all means. I don't think it necessarily matters what you identify as, what gender, etc. There's already so many people who are transgender who are in the military. According to a study by the Williams Institute with UCLA, there's around 15,000 people currently right now who identify as transgender who are already in the military. I don't see why we shouldn't allow these people who are willingly join the military to help serve our country should not have that opportunity to do so already.
Yeah, I agree with you. Everybody who wants to join the U.S. military, it must, they could do it, you know? Mostly because this is only provoking more hate towards the government. We already have every single type of minority against Trump's administration, or their policies, and to be honest, that's what he was going for. And mostly because the administration is saying, according to ABC News, that it's because of medical thing, a medical condition, they are not well enough to serve the U.S. military. However, there's not enough investigation or research to prove this point. So that's what it hasn't been approved yet, you know?
Yeah, definitely. It's very troubling that this is happening. And being transgender doesn't affect how you are in the service. You still have to train the same as everyone else. They're still doing the same requirements. They're passing the same tests. So I think it's honestly, in my opinion, ridiculous that he is wanting to ban transgender members from service. President Trump's crackdown on immigration has rippled through institutions with over 1,400 student visas revocations and has now impacted international students at Cal State Fullerton. The Academic Senate disclosed in their meeting earlier this month that 8 foreign students' visas were revoked. In response, the university is guiding affected students to third parties of the CSUF system that provide legal referrals. CSUF is also currently exploring options for them to proceed with their education and earn their degrees. In some cases, the Trump administration has cited international students' presence or activities as having, quote, potentially serious adverse foreign policy consequences, end quote, for the United States with no clear justification or right to due process. The wave of revocations has led to more than 100 lawsuits filed by international students nationwide, including an amicus brief challenging the terminations. In a surprising turn, the Trump administration announced on Friday a temporary reversal restoring the legal status of these students while a new policy framework is developing. Officials say they still reserve the right to terminate visas for legitimate status violations or unlawful behavior. For international students seeking help or resources if they believe they are at risk, they can contact Cal State Fullerton's Diverse Initiatives and Resource Center, International Student Offices, the institution's General Counsel, Human Resources, Student Affairs, and the Office of the register. Okay, so what are we thinking about his sudden turnaround on letting these students keep their visas now, especially that we have 8 here that were revoked?
I think that it's great that they've reversed their decision to take away student visas, because simply the students who are here on student visas are here to learn. We're building our economy by these international students, contributing to our economy by paying tuition and stuff like that. And I think it really is unfortunate that many students live in fear that their student visas are going to be revoked at any moment in time. So I think that it's really great that they have reversed that and are now trying to implement a better system to figure out if people are entitled to a student visa or not.
Mm-hmm. I do think it's just definitely a little bit too late. I think it's already caused very irreversible damage. It's making the Trump administration look really, really bad, because as America, we are a very diverse country. Mm-hmm. We always say that we are very, very diverse, and we welcome anyone of any background, gender identity, race, etc. So that's why we have our doors open for students who do want to come to the U.S., who do want to learn, who do willingly come here, spend 4 years here, their entire educational career to come here because of the opportunities that we have, because of the opportunities our universities have that other universities don't. And according to APUs, at least 1,000 students at 160 colleges, universities, and other systems had their visas revoked. And these happen in the most diverse areas of our country, especially in California and New York. And even in states that aren't necessarily leaning more left, especially in those big cities, that's where we saw it the most. So it's definitely more left-leaning areas as well. And it's just causing just a lot of concern again. Just to reiterate my point, I just think the damage is already done. I don't necessarily know what direction they're going to go with next. But again, the damage is already done.
Yeah, it's definitely good to hear that they're looking at the process and giving the visas back to international students. However, how you said the damage has been already done. Most of the students are already back in their country, and the government is not going to give any type of support to pay for plane tickets or the time that has been lost in schools. Like, for example, I have a friend of a source. He got his visa revoked for a traffic violation, a minimum traffic violation. I consider to think it was his speed limit. He passed the speed limit, and he already went back to India. However, the fact that they are giving him his visa back, however, he's already back in India. He already lost the time at school. He already lost money by paying plane tickets and even more. The unannounced presence of a Department of Homeland Security agent and K-9 on campus alarmed the Titan community this past Wednesday, escalating into speculations of an alleged immigration and customs enforcement official. The DHS agent arrived on campus with a K-9 near Yorba Linda Boulevard and associated roads Wednesday morning. In a news release issued by the CSUF police, they said the agent and the dog were part of a DHS explosive detection K-9 team. The dog and handler were on campus to conduct routine training that occurs 4 times per year. In an ex-post, CSUF police stated that, quote, they were not here to enforce action or conduct an investigation, end quote. In fear for their students' safety, some professors canceled classes. In an academic senate meetings on Thursday, Chief of Police Anthony Frisbee said the CSUF Police Department did not forewarn the administration prior to the DHS explosive K-9 team's presence on campus. Around 10 a.m., an email from the Dean of Students stated that the agent's visit had, quote, no connection to any immigration enforcement activity involving the university or its community members, end quote, and restated that there is no reason for alarm and no classes should be canceled. CSUF has established a point of contact to call for immigration matters through the Office of Risk Management 24/7 line at 657-278-7475. So I want to know your guys' thoughts on this matter. We definitely saw a lot of people posting in their social media about the DHS agent being on campus, how to help, what to do in case they're confronted by the DHS agent, and definitely a lot of hysteria around campus.
Yeah, that Wednesday night was definitely just mass panic in a bunch of my class discords. People were sending in emails from professors saying that they're canceling classes. I notified some of my friends to just be careful because especially with everything that we've been seeing with ICE currently, it is scary that it could have been their presence on campus. So it was very hectic that Wednesday though.
Yeah, I mean, and over 50% of our enrollment is people of Hispanic or Latino descent. And within that majority, we have a lot of people who may be undocumented and in fear of being deported or busted up by ICE. So I think that it should have been handled differently. There should have been a warning to let students and professors and staff members know that this was going to be happening on campus, or it shouldn't have happened on campus at all. So there should have been some more thought put into this before creating such a frenzy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as someone who grew up in Fullerton, this was kind of my first time ever seeing something like this happen, like so close just in proximity to where I live, especially just on our campus in general. I know in Juliana and I's marketing class, our professor talked to us about it and he asked for our feelings on it. And it seemed like a lot of students were still uncertain with the university's response, saying that they didn't really believe them. And it was just a very, very insane time, especially with how quickly it spread. I saw it I think on Instagram at first, and then it was on the Cal State Fullerton subreddit, and that started spreading like wildfire everywhere, so much so that the police actually responded to that post directly before releasing a statement. And that just goes to show that even just on a university campus in general, how quickly things can spread overnight like that and cause a frenzy with a lot of people not necessarily knowing what was going on. I even caught myself deleting a post after I posted it for a few minutes because I was like, okay, I'm not sure if this is actually factual or not. It definitely could be. I wasn't against that happening, but I also was unsure because I was so shocked the university didn't make a statement or the police hadn't made a statement yet. I was very, very confused by that. And the fact that it only necessarily happened because someone else posted about it first and then it started spreading and then they had to make a statement was definitely a little bit concerning.
Yeah, they definitely should have mitigated that fear before it even had the chance to arise.
Yeah, it was definitely also interesting the next day, that Thursday on campus, it did seem like there were less students around than normal. Even in our class, when our marketing professor was talking about it, it seemed more empty.
And with that, that's all we have for today.
Have a great week, Titans.
And stay tuned for more news, views, and info.
We'll see you next time on The Report.